Well, hello and welcome back. We are continuing working our way through our project we're converting over. One of the things we're going to do, and we're going to focus on this episode and maybe a couple more after this, is modernizing the look a little bit. If you look around our site, as we're bouncing on a couple of links, it's meh. It's one of those, it's okay. It's not, it doesn't like pop and some stuff like that. It doesn't look super modern. So what we're going to do is we are going to tweak the CSS and talk a little bit about style sheets and such in general as we do that. So if we look at this site, one of the things we can do is I'm going to just take a CSS file from somewhere else that's off of one of my sites, and I'm just going to swap out the code for the CSS. And I'm going to show you that when you think of like skinning a site and stuff like that, although it's not set up exactly the same, what we will see is now you see something that looks a little different. You've got like we've got still some of the headers and stuff like that. We're seeing this is a little different. We're seeing that our legend looks a little different than it did. The pages, the color, the footer, the menu up here, all of these things have sort of changed up a little bit. So now we've got something that looks, and if we see it has a little different look and feel. So what we want to do with this is let's do some additions to this. So first thing I want to do is I'm going to go to these. These are legends within a field set. If you look, and we can look at it, for example, on we can look at the dashboard. Basically, you can see right here, it's a field set is that entire box, and then the legend is within that. And if we go look for the legend, let's do some tweaking. So one of the things we want to do is let's take that legend and let's see. Now the field set itself, note, so if you go up here, this container, actually if we look here, I think that's the, if we look at it's probably the legend. If we look at the field set, I wonder if it has lines. So if you look in here, it's got some padding, it's got a margin, and we've got some padding after. Margin, let's see, border box, there we go. So somewhere after that, I think we've got a little border box. That changes it up a little bit. And if you're looking at this is one of the things you can do when you're playing around. Depending on what your browser is, you can do things where you can like pull some, you can actually just quickly shut off some of the features and see what that looks like. So for example, if I go to my legend itself, I have a background color. That's that gray that you see. I've got a color for the text. Otherwise, look, it goes to a default. The border, I can change that border a little bit. The padding, you can see now that sort of spaces it out a little bit. The font size is actually, yeah, so that's where it would be if I didn't have that special font size. And text align is left is going to be default. Well, let's tweak that. So I don't like the font size, so let's improve our font size a little bit. And let's tweak that color. Let's change those colors a little bit. So we're going to go to our legend so if we go find legend here, this is what it looks like. So one of the things we didn't want to do is we didn't want to bother with the font size. We're going to leave it just normal. Text align, let's make that center. So now we're going to push it to the center. That background color, let's see, what do we want to do with this? Let's swap essentially we're going to clean this up a little bit. So we're going to keep the border color the same, which is this. We could thicken it a little bit. Let's thicken it a little bit. And we're going to take the color. Let's just swap these two. So we're going to take the background color. And the color is going to be that EEE. And background color is going to be that. You may note that you can sometimes do it in 3. If it's just the same thing over and over again, then it'll allow you to do a length of 3. So like this 3669, I can do 369. And it's the exact same color as the 336699. So there's like a little bit of a shorthand you can do if that's the case for you. Sometimes you're not going to have exactly the same. If you got very simple colors, then you can do that. So let's start with just that. Let's go take a look at that. Let's see what our field sets look like at our legends. So now if we come in here, if it'll run. Now, look, we see these already as we see all of the legends are changing. And so we've got something that it sort of pops a little bit now. You've got something that pops. Now, one of the things we can do here is we can actually change that legend a little bit more. And let's see. I'm going to steal this. And let's go back to our legend. And we're going to round this out a little bit. So if we go here, we can add a thing. And let's do a border radius. We'll just start with 4 pixels. That's probably not bad. It'll be enough to see the difference. Let's make it like 10. We're going to make it a little more distinct. So border radius, we can add to any box. It's going to change the corners on it. So if you see these little, it's very square right now. If we come back, notice now we've got these things that got a little rounding to them. So that's probably, I'm going to say that's a little too much. So I'm going to cut that in half. And so now I've got something that's going to look a little bit better. Now, one of the things I want to do is I want to change up the colors here. So right now, I think the container that I'm in, or the field set itself, if we go over here, field set does not have any kind of color to it. It's got it, and you can see here, there's something else probably to note, is we've got a couple of CSS files we're using. So here at the reboot.scss, which is basic compiled CSS, we've got some information around a field set, but then we actually override it. So the one at the top here, or at least not override, these are the things this is where it gets all of its values. So it gets padding, margin, and border, but that min width, I think gets, right here, gets overset. So if I do this, and then you can see where now that min width gets picked up from the one below. And we're just going to touch on some stuff because you can get pretty crazy pretty quick. Now let's take a look at, while we're here, if we look at our buttons, we're going to see that this is using a bootstrap button primary. It's got a color and a background color, and that's really where it's picking those up. And it's coming from the button CSS, so it's got a border color that we could change. It's really hard to see that thinness. But we also have because it's that, we have a color and a background color. And this is our button primary. And so we could change this. Let's change, well, I sort of like, let's tweak those a little bit. So let's go to our button primary. And this is, this goes back to some of the buttons we talked about. So if I do secondary, I don't even know if I have that defined in the CSS. So now you can see where it's gray. If I go to secondary, I do not have it in the core. So I don't have to worry about that. If I do button, I believe it's error. I always forget. Button error is, nope. If I do button, warning, I think, or let's do button info. So button info, we've got a blue, but again, nope, we still don't have that overwritten. So we can pick a couple different ways we want to do it. Let's go back to our button primary and let's tweak it a little bit. So we've got something that looks okay. So if we go to button primary, let's change the background color. Actually, let's change the text. We're going to go to this like red that we've got in a couple of places. Oh, it's button default. Let's see what that one looks like. If we do, so we can come in here, we can do button default. Oh, that's sort of good. So we may want to just change those over to, and we get, notice you get a mouse over, it changes it up a little bit. So if we go look for button default, let's see if we've got that. Yeah, here we have if it's active or not. So we changed the background color a little bit. So let's change the background color if that's red, let's change it to, let's go with like a gray. So we'll go with like DDD maybe. Notice that sometimes, depending on what you're in, sometimes you can be able to see the color right away. You can also find color wheels and stuff like that you can easily, let's try it like down at like 888. Whoop. That probably looks like it's not quite there. So let's change it. Let's go back to, what did we say? Well, we'll do like a CCC. So we'll do that, and we're going to make the color that red. So we're going to go back and find our button default. And now the background color is going to become the text. We're basically going to swap the two. Oh, there you go. That's not two. That's almost exactly what I did. So we're going to come back here, swap the two. So we've got that for now our default button. Now our primary is a little different. So what we probably want to do here is let's make these primary. That's easy enough to do. This is in our home page login. So if we go up here, we're going to go hit our template, wherever I put my templates. There we go. And I think it's just called home. And I'm going to go button default, or no, button, is that primary? That's what I had. Yeah, here we go. So the submit, forgot password, those are all primary. Instead, those are going to become default. Oops, if I spell it correctly. And if we come here, oh, do we have to sign up? Sign up somewhere else. Oh, this might be different. Submit, register. Oops, that's a different one. Let's leave that. So it's not that, it is, oh, it's login instead of home. Here we go, login form, email, password. There we go. So those are going to be default. And note that when we do this, we could go through and we could do sweeping changes to our site by changing just a little bit of our CSS. So one of the things we want to do is let's change it. Let's do that right now. Let's make our field sets. We're going to go change the background color of that a little bit. We're going to go to, so we go back to our core CSS. We're going to find our field set. And if you don't find it, that means you haven't defined it outside of whatever the norm or the defaults are. So you can always tweak that a little bit as you need to. So now I'm going to go to background color. And I'm going to make it just a little bit darker. So if I look here, let's see, let me just pick background. Let me go actually up to body. If I go to body, then I probably have a, yeah, so I've got a background color of this guy. F4, let's just copy him. And so his background color, if I go to the field set, he's going to have a background, background color. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that, but I want to darken it. One of the things I can do is by darkening, I'm just going to take every single number and I'm going to add a +1, well, basically subtract 1. So that F4 becomes E3, the F6 becomes E5, and the F9 becomes E8. And then let's see what that color looks like. So that's a little darker. So let's just go with that for right now. So we're going to take that with our field set. And what else do we want to do? Anything? Let's just do that for now. Well, we do have that. We're going to leave it like that because what we could do is border color. That's the style. Okay. So let's do that. And let's just see what we get just by tweaking a few things. Tweaked it. We changed some button styles. Let's see what we do, what we get just out of our field sets. Now you see, now I got something that pops a little bit more, or is a little more different, at least, in how it looks. Now, you know, we can play around with that, which we will. If I go log in, we're also going to see that across the board. But notice now, before, I had like my odds and evens, and I bet those have not been defined. So if I go here, row, did he have a, wait, I need to go to my row. Yeah, so row even doesn't exist anymore. So what I need to do is I want to take an even and an odd. So if that's like my normal color, let's tweak this a little bit. So if it's even, we're just going to make these, this is going to be nice, easy to do, because what we're going to do is we're going to do an even, and then we're going to do an odd. And let's do, let's start with, I'm going to sort of start with these colors. We'll play with these colors first. Here we go. So if it's even, let's see if it's, yeah, we'll start with even. So with even, we're going to go with like a heavier background. And if it's odd, we're going to go with something a little different. So right now, these are sort of reversed, basically. So, which means we can just take this. That's going to be hashtag EEE. That's going to be, color is going to be this color. And then instead, let's do the same thing, but we're going to tweak these a little bit. So if it's odd, what we want to do is let's make it not quite. So let's go, we're going to add 3 to this. So instead of, so it's going to be 6699, and then it's A, B, C, right? 1, 2, 3, yep, C. Oh, no, I'm sorry, 0. So it's going to be BB. So then it's a little bit lighter color there, and we want this to be a darker color. So let's go 3 down, so it's going to be BBB. Now let's see how that looks. And this is how we can start making some changes to our stuff. Again, sweeping with a few minor changes. So now if we look, I notice we've already like made, did I hit the right password? I did. But it's not picking up even an, it's not picking up even an odd. So let's go back, because I need to probably do dot even and dot odd, because they are classes. Those are class names. So I need, if it's a default, if it's a tag, I can do it without, it's just the name. But if it is a class, which I forgot to mention, is it's going to have to prefix with a dot. So now, if we take a look at it, if we run this through and we come in, now see, now we're seeing our, we're going to see all of our little bit of our table, our odd and evens. Now, one of the things we had before is we had some way to, we had it on a mouse over. So that's what we're going to do next, is we're going to talk about our, actually hovering, whatever selected row we have. But that's, I think, a good start. So a couple of things to think about as you're putting your site together is make sure that you're using styles. That's one of the things that we're supposed to do. Google likes it better if you've got styles and classes as opposed to just like all of these, and not inline, but actually using a style sheet so that you don't have styling code all over the place. And one of the big benefits is now, as I'm doing it, I'm going to see all of these things start show up because they're all based on a CSS. So we're going to play around with it some more next time around. But as always, shoot an email to info@developreneur.com if you have any questions. Go out there and have yourself a great day, a great week, and we will talk to you next time.
Hello, this is Rob with Developreneur, also known as Building Better Developers. Wanted to announce that we have school.developreneur.com. Feel free to check it out if you like any of this information, any of the content that we've sent, and you would like to see more. You can come out, you can enroll for free. We have free courses. We've got places for you to get better at just learning a technology, our how-tos. You can work on your business skills. We can help you with becoming a better developer, as in coding and things like that. A lot of the stuff you've seen on YouTube, we also have out at school.developreneur. We just have it in a little more of a educational format and a way for you to track your progress as you move forward becoming a better developer.